Fans were elated to hear that Resident Evil Village is taking direct inspiration from Resident Evil 4. You know, just one of the greatest video games of all time, no big deal. This means we can expect strong gameplay mechanics, terrifying enemies, and a thrilling setting. Who's a good doggy? Village going back to RE4 is good for the series because it will improve on one of the few weaknesses of RE7 Biohazard. The molded started to feel a bit lackluster and repetitive when you fight them like a bazillion times. Village instead reminds us of 4 in the best way possible. We've already seen in early gameplay footage a variety of cool enemies, such as sword-wielding vampires who slowly creep at the player, to Lycans giving us straight-up Sauron vibes. With a stronger focus on enemy variety, we can expect each enemy to require a different strategy to defeat them, as opposed to unloading clips into these bitey blobs. From chainsaw enthusiasts to head-munching parasites, Resident Evil 4 introduced new enemies the entire game, even right up to the very end. Combat in RE4 was famous for, at the time, giving a modern spin on good old zombie-killing mechanics. Capcom scaled the new power they gave to the player with the difficulty and the amount of enemies you fight at one time beautifully. Juggling enemies with headshots and roundhouse kicks while managing ammo kept the survival aspect of the older games alive while adding a thrilling challenge. As the game progresses, new enemies require new tactics. As soon as you get used to staggering the basic Ganados, a new threat with different mechanics comes to kill you. It was awesome. Like, what do I even do against this gangly freak of nature? Well, you need a thermal scope to see his weak point, but until then, good luck, mate. RE4 used enemy variety to keep you feeling like you couldn't relax, not just to give you something new to shoot. Although Village keeps the horrific first-person aspects of RE7, it should also have more interesting things to kill. Whereas the controversial games in the series jump the shark with action, this route has brought great balance in the past. I expect once you find a shotgun and start to feel more powerful, they're going to introduce a new mini-boss type enemy with a chainsaw or something equally as good at taking your head off. Typically these bigger baddies don't just look more menacing than the regular enemies, but they can also kill you in like one hit, easy. RE7 landed the terror, but RE4 landed the panic. Oh, okay, so the Lycans have hammers too. I'm out of here. From gameplay footage, we've seen the return of one of the most fun RE4 gameplay sections, when you scramble to batten down the hatches against insurmountable hordes of flesh eaters. Ethan has the option to move a bookshelf in front of a door and traverse through windows. These may seem like insignificant details, but it shows how we can expect the tension of RE7 to be amped up to the action levels of 4. But please, Capcom, stop there and don't give us RE6. Never again. In a hectic section of RE4, Leon and Lewis battle against an infinite barrage of enemies as they siege the shanty little cabin they took refuge in. You can't defeat all the foes, but you can outlast them by pushing enemies away from the windows and blocking the entrances with furniture. The scene is intense, as your screen is quickly overrun with angry enemies looking to rip your head off. This easily could have become merely an action arena, but as you run low on ammo and become outnumbered, you quickly start to feel panicked. The combat is strong, but still effectively lands the horror the franchise is famous for. Also, I feel like no one's talking about this. If there's infinite enemies, where do they all sleep? It's a small village, are they all supposed to share beds or something? In RE8, the thought of fighting hordes of killer werewolves now in first person adds a whole new dimension of terror. Having to turn with your limited field of vision to see if the window is still blocked makes you feel way more on edge than a slight nudge of the camera did in RE4. RE7 encounters often felt intense, but you could always slash away at them or just literally shut the door on them. By putting the player in a position where they are attacked by hordes and the only objective is to survive, just like in 4, you'll need to take action, and we are definitely up for it. Let's get into the RPG style elements of the game. As the enemies get tougher, you'll probably need a stronger weapon. Fortunately, the lovable weapon peddling merchant makes a spiritual return as the Duke. The Duke offers up new weapons and weapon upgrades to the player, showcasing Village's stronger focus on action. There's always the fear that this may unbalance the game, but given the inspiration they're taking from RE4, upgrading weapons won't be a luxury to make the game easier, but a necessity to keep you alive. In 4, you upgraded through finding secret treasures hidden on the map, so you never easily had the resources to upgrade everything unless you did some serious exploring. Which worked twofold, as you never knew when your curiosity would be rewarded with shiny new trinkets to get you a brand new scope for your favourite rifle. With so many threats to fight, the player had real costly decisions to make on which upgrade to get. Remembering that there is limited ammo overall and the weaker weapons typically have more ammo to obtain, although it might be tempting to upgrade your Magnum to have insane firepower, you'd be better off going for a quick reload pistol or a rapid fire shotgun. Now in 8, the weapon system looks very similar, offering general weapon upgrades to each weapon as well as weapon specific upgrades for the cost of some lei. You'll be able to give all your weapons upgrades in power, reload speed, ammo and rate of fire, as well as unique upgrades to each weapon such as a recoil compensator for a pistol. In the demo, you briefly fight a few lichens in a wheat field. This encounter feels tough and engaging, which is exactly what we want. Later on in the game, with your upgraded arsenal of weapons, you can expect the difficulty to ramp up, requiring you to either take on far more enemies or a ferocious new type of enemy. Like in 4, the weapon upgrades show Village should make you feel sufficiently powerful and powerless at the same time, right up until the very end. You'll have your tricked out Magnum, but you're now fighting a whole lichen family. Grandparents and second cousins twice removed also included. Ethan hasn't got the superpowers of a Redfield or a Kennedy, so he has to eat food like a regular person. Fortunately, the meals are so nutritious that they give him new abilities, such as reduced damage while guarding. You could hunt fish and pick up eggs in RE4, but cooking is a first for the series. If it's a first, then how could this be taken from RE4? I hear you ask. As previously mentioned, RE4 introduced Resident Evil to RPG elements to increase the player's strength to balance against the unforgiving world. Cooking is in the same spirit as RE4's upgrade system. Village has brought back weapon upgrades and introduced player-specific upgrades through the use of cooking, so powerful weapons alone won't be enough to survive this time round. Finding ingredients seems to be something that you need to take the time to do, opposed to passively picking up lei from dead enemies. This too helps the immersion into the survival themes of the series. You want to get to the combat, but you better scavenge for food, otherwise you're gonna be the food yourself. Managing your resources keeps the tension as you progress through the game. Sometimes you're gonna be prepared, and other times you'll just be scraping by. The survival aspect is emphasised with the Tetris-like management system from RE4 making a return. Moving away from the simplistic watch-style management of 7, a more basic system which was suited to the less complex gameplay variety. Village, like the older RE games, will now force you to make tough decisions on what items you carry. In RE4 you had a larger arsenal to choose from, but with limited space to store them, so you had to make tough decisions about what to keep. Early on, every slot feels precious, so you might end up leaving a large fish instead of some well-needed ammo. Or even decide not to bring that fancy new shotgun, because in the system the stronger weapons take up more space. Later on, thankfully, your inventory gets expanded so you can wield a whole armory, but it's in scale with the threats as mentioned earlier. Late into the game, everything is gonna be trying to kill you, so you better make space for that oversized Magnum if you want to stand a chance. Resident Evil Village has already showcased a huge diversity of landscapes. You have the eerie village, the grandiose castle, a lakeside cave, and a freezing rooftop. We should expect these to alter the gameplay like they have done in the past. Resident Evil 4 changed the gameplay according to its surroundings. The village was open and easy to be surrounded by enemies, whereas the castle was more claustrophobic and had suspenseful moments and brain-teasing puzzles. The different environments meant the player had to alter their playstyle for the upcoming situation. RE4 had moments where we had to creep through the sewers, but also be ready for a gang of cult members to join the party right after. In RE8, the village seems to have a similar open feel to 4, with brief little moments to create a sense of oncoming danger. Like in this wheat field, which is too creepy for me. I'm not even supposed to have gluten! Just like Jack from 7 and Mr. X from 2, Lady Dimitrescu will stalk you around the castle, which I'm not convinced is such a bad thing. She's gonna pursue you endlessly, looking to, well, rip you to shreds, keeping you a little bit unsettled around every corner, to be honest. Guns blazing action isn't going to work here, so it's best to get sneaking. The variety of locations does the same thing that RE4 achieved so well, keeping you ready for anything in an unfamiliar territory. If you take one thing away from this video, it's this. Ethan's experience of the village is going to be absolutely horrible, and it's all thanks to RE4. Capcom went through a rocky time with 5 and 6, but 7 restored our faith in them, and with Village, we absolutely worship them. Using the beautiful balance that RE4 achieved, Village is going to send horror at the player in a variety of different forms, all of which to scare you senseless. Sure, Ethan has never been this powerful, but the world has also never been this brutal. I bet the swamp's not looking so bad now, is it, Ethan? That's all from me, so let me know your comments down below, and if you liked the video, give it a like. And if you want to keep up to date with upcoming titles and gaming news, consider giving the channel a subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.